program, and I am thrilled to have and be back with Robert Lukowski, who's the CEO of Quantum Computing Inc. We have been following this company for well over 6 months now, and they keep on delivering on what they say they're going to do. They're doing it, and there's just a lot of exciting stuff going on in the space. So, Robert, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to what we're going to be covering today.
Yeah, thanks, Hunter. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. I'm also, for everyone, our viewers, I'm rocking the QCI bomber jacket today. So I've got some corporate swag that I'm promoting today, which is great. So I'm excited for that. Bob, let's dive into this because there's a lot of exciting things going. For the people following the stock, over 15 million shares traded this morning already. So, I mean, this is incredible, especially in the quantum space. People are starting to take notice of what's going on with the company. So congratulations on that. So if anyone is following, our stock symbol is down at the bottom, QUBT. Make sure you follow the company. Okay, Bob, let's dive into this. Some recent news came out with Million Ways that I know you were starting to work with them, but now a press release came out the other day with an announcement that you're looking at potentially acquiring the company. I would like to get your thoughts on that because you and I've had many discussions now about the impact and future of AI and how quantum is powering AI, and that's what you said. And now it seems like you're really standing behind that by this new acquisition with Million Ways. So walk us through that.
Yeah. So, as we spoke, the power of AI is not just its ability to synthesize this information and come up with the, like the chat GPTs of the world and the ability to interact with customers and users in a dynamic way that make people think that they're actually getting they're interacting with a human being, right? Or a relatively reasonable facsimile of it. At the end of the day, it's still all about power and speed and the ability to do the complex calculations that are necessary to be able to continue to expand the AI and the robustness of it. So we always knew that quantum computing as a domain, not just the company, was going to be very central to AI, to powering the AI. Eventually, classical computers are going to reach their limits with AI as they're doing in other things. And for the AI platforms to really expand, they have to be powered by a quantum computer. And as you know, with our portfolio of IP and the work that we've been doing, one of our technologies is a reservoir quantum computer. It's effectively a neural net, but on quantum. And that shows, and the reason we started doing the test with Million Ways was to demonstrate the utility of our capability and the application of our reservoir quantum computer in that space. And it's fundamentally shifting the business model for them, and it has a potential of impacting other business models as well. But we wanted to demonstrate that we could do it, and then in doing so, we recognize that the company, A Million Ways, has got a very unique and very interesting algorithm that we think we can help scale significantly in the marketplace. So we decided to enter into negotiations for a letter of intent to acquire them. We think it just demonstrates how impactful quantum computing is going to be overall in the AI domain.
Well, let's get into that because one of the interesting things I was reading about Million Ways, and full disclaimer, I use Million Ways, and I actually really like it from an emotional AI perspective. So I think we're going to end up with Million Ways doing a much better job than some of these other AI platforms out there.
Sure.
for understanding human interaction. Now, there's some news that's relevant. Yesterday, and I believe I sent you this message. We can kind of talk about this. There was and all the news channels are talking about it this morning. I was listening to Bloomberg, CNBC, and they were talking that this morning, or this was yesterday actually, an AI-generated image of an explosion at the U.S. Pentagon surfaced. And with multiple news sources, they were reporting it as real. The S&P 500 fell 30 points in minutes, which resulted in $500 billion market cap swing on a fake image. It then rebounded once the image was confirmed that it was fake. And the tagline here is AI is becoming dangerous. Now, as the CEO of quantum computing, given your background, you don't have to make comment on it, but I think this speaks to where AI has the potentiality of going. And we're seeing, these things now actually having market impact. what is your thoughts on this? What are some of the things that maybe Million Ways is doing, with regards to that? And then also, one of the issues that came out about Blumenthal, this is irrelevant information.
Mm-hmm.
So, what type of internal testing are you using with the photonics and with the reservoir quantum computer and with Million Ways to address or potentially address some of these situations?
Sure. So there's a lot to unpack there. So first, going on the image that you sent of the photo of the Pentagon, the fake. So so two things. So that type of disinformation campaign is as old as humankind. Obviously, the mediums in which we use disinformation have changed significantly, but the ability to shape people's opinion or get some reaction out of some false information has always been part of human nature. The mediums that are available to us and the ability for people to exploit those mediums for their own benefit are just continuing to evolve. And I think the use of AI in this space is just another one of those steps in sort of a wrong path down the evolutionary path. And regrettably, it's something that's going to have a big impact, much like much of the information today in the internet. Without good sourcing, without really understanding critical thinking, people will react to the first thing that they see or read, and as a consequence, they may actually act on that. So that's a human nature thing. That's a cultural concern that I always have when we start talking about critical thinking and people looking at the source of information before they react to it.
Right.
But regrettably, this is a law of large numbers, and when you start talking about stock market influence, it just takes a few people to react negatively, and all of a sudden it catches on very quickly. So the fact that that image was propagated, presumably by an AI bot, shows the danger of it without a doubt. But again, it's not unique to AI, so I don't want to make AI the bad guy here. The same token, we can do things to potentially detect false images and things like this. This is actually one of the reasons we decided to do the Million Ways LOI and go further than just our initial proof of concept, is because we believe this technology has that ability to actually detect AI from a human being. So for example, you might have seen the Senate hearings last week in which Senator Blumenthal demonstrated a video of himself that purported to be him with a speech that was not given by him, that was completely out of character for him.
Right.
So if you looked at it, it was a well done video. But if you start doing the analysis on it, and we did, not using the combination of our reservoir computer, we just used the technology of Million Ways to determine, in fact, that video, based upon the speech and then the transference or the translation of that speech to text, they were able to determine, in fact, that video was false. Right? They did it in a matter of minutes. So that's actually a good use of AI against a bad use of AI.
Right. And not going back to my college days, but man, if I had ChatGPT back in college, I would have written these papers a lot faster. So obviously there's going to be there, and kind of to bring your background into this for the listening audience, you have to have a police system at some point. You have to have law and order. And in order to do that, it's good AI versus bad AI. And what are the technologies that are going to come out that are going to police the bad AIs? And perhaps maybe this could be where this synergistic relationship between Million Ways and QUBT will potentially go.
It certainly could. I mean, it's a can of worms, because you're talking about the right to speech, right? The First Amendment, and being able to, and we always have to remember, when we start talking about First Amendment rights, you can't stand up in a movie theater and yell fire and be covered by the First Amendment. That's just purely reckless. Right. I don't know if that would necessarily extend to false narratives and false opinions being put out there by AI. It's not just by AI, right? Humans do the same thing.
Right.
That's a moral conversation. That's a legitimate conversation to be having.
Right.
But I think the point you're making is, how can technologies help in the discernment between something that's false and something that's positive, as long as it's got more of a ubiquitous access to it. And I think that's where we're going with a lot of these things, right? I don't want to sound, from a government's perspective, and Lord knows I've been, I was in the government for a long time.
Right.
And I can tell you the government's probably the least efficient organization we have. In some
Yeah.
ways, you want
Right.
that to be inefficient.
Right.
I don't know if the government regulation will ever catch up with the electronic world. We're woefully behind now, and I think
Right.
we're going to continually be behind it. The technologies that are out there to be able to help police it, or at least identify those bad things, are out there. And if they're used properly, I think there's a lot of good benefit to it.
Well, and that's why it's so exciting to follow this journey, because we're seeing, even when we began focusing our attention from a market hunter's perspective, my own personal perspective, many months ago with you and your organization, and I keep reiterating this for our viewing audience. I encourage people, go back. We have all the links on our Twitter and our LinkedIn. Follow the Quantum newsletter. We're following this company very closely. They have been doing everything that they've said they've been doing, and they continue to execute, and they continue doing a great job at that execution. And that's kind of where I want to lead into with this next. We spoke a little bit about, you were awarded a support contract with NASA for kind of like the first phase. The press release came out this morning, 8 a.m. First to market, full stack, photonic-based quantum computer. And I just want to stop right there. This is the first to market full stack photonic based quantum computer. Okay. So I want people to understand, this isn't just talk. I know when we're talking in the world of quantum computing, a lot of people are doing research, a lot of people are doing studies, but this is real. This is working. They're getting contract. This one, it announced today that you received a follow-on task order to your subcontract award on February 8th to support NASA in remote sensing and climate change monitoring. So NASA obviously liked what you were doing. So you got a second follow-on contract. And when we kind of went in to look at this, I started doing a little bit of research, on that NASA contract, because we were talking about it. There's a lot of stuff here for the roadmap of where this could go on this photonic LiDAR system that you have. And it says here, the satellite images enabling daytime operations of spaceborne LiDAR systems. So I assume that that's on satellite deployments and large scale for NASA. Bob, what's the future for this market look like? This seems to me that it could be on, if I was NASA and this worked, why wouldn't I have this on every satellite that goes up?
Yeah, well, so let's just kind of start back from that. It's a follow-on contract. It demonstrates the efficacy of our approach. Just one qualification: it's this is the application of our photonic quantum capabilities. It's not a quantum computer. This is the use of LiDAR using our photonic quantum chip.
Got it.
And the photonic technologies. But it's clearly quantum applications of that space, and the ability to use photonics to do measurements that heretofore have been very difficult, if not impossible to do at the levels that we're doing that. Extending that into a space platform is the next iterations. We're just doing this all terrestrial and doing it in the labs, but there are many steps that will follow this if we continue to be successful. So that's very gratifying to your point. Customer endorsements, and this is not an endorsement by a customer, except for the fact that we're getting the follow-on work, right? So I'm not suggesting NASA is going out there waving our flag. What I am saying is that they're giving us follow-on work to continue to do the same stuff that we've been doing. That's very validating for us. To go to your point, there's no doubt that these technologies, be it LiDAR or variations of LiDAR and other imaging technologies, have a tremendous market opportunity to be able to not replace necessarily, but clearly augment existing imaging capabilities. I'm not so sure they'll be on every satellite. Every satellite's not an imaging satellite, but certainly the uses range from everything from civilian use. There's military opportunities there. There's plenty of civilian opportunities for all these technologies, and we continue to refine it. We're going down that path. And candidly, and realistically, we need good partners with whom to get into the marketplace. NASA is a great example of a partner, and we're looking for commercial partners to do very similar things to extend our reach into that commercial space. So we're just scratching the surface, and kind of mixing metaphors. It's the first step in a long journey for us in this market, but we have significant opportunities. We were very optimistic about the efficacy of our technologies to have a significant difference in this space. We certainly think that we could become a major player in that world.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that, and just for those market hunters out there that are listening to this, in the time that we've been talking, the volume of your stock was at 15 million, and as we're still continuing, you're now over 16.5 million shares. So 1 million shares while we've been talking right now. I'm going to take full credit for that. So for our listeners out there, but I think, Bob, one of the things I look at in companies, and you've always said this, and that's why I have a lot of admiration for pushing technology forward, right? Going back to what you said, you like saying what you're going to say and then doing it, right? You don't want to talk about pie in the sky. Now, it's great that we can talk about markets and we can talk about the potentiality to acquire market share, but having the validation of an entity like NASA that, okay, you get a first contract, but there's a lot of companies that don't get that follow along contract, right? Or that support. Maybe a bad example or analogy would be if I take my car in to get worked on and the mechanic doesn't do a good job, I'm probably not going to send my follow along work that I need on that car. But getting that validation from NASA with this particular contract, are there more parts to this? Are there more opportunities outside of just the LiDAR aspect of this within NASA, or where does that go from space? I mean, because I know we talk quantum computing. I mean, are they going to use, I'm just thinking because of what you're able to do with your software and the computing, I mean, is this going to be into, rocket analysis, the Blue Origins of the world wanting to do this in the private sector?
Well, I think, so the next, certainly the next phase for us is to continue the work to ultimately get on a space platform, for LiDAR. But if you look at other domains where I believe there's an opportunity for us to contribute and to look for other sponsors, be they government sponsors or commercial sponsors, I would say the communications world is one of the areas that we have a significant ability to market into and to do the same that we're doing with LiDAR. So, I just have to remind all the listeners here that this is a small company, but we have a very powerful technology with our photonic-based approach. And if you think about this being the hub of what we're doing is all photonic-based, and in this case, it's a photonic-based quantum computing chip, which we manufacture and we're going to go to scale with. That is the hub. And then the spokes are the respective domains in which we can apply that technology. So, for example, it is LiDAR, it's sensing, it's computing, it's cybersecurity. And within the framework of cybersecurity, it's actually cybersecurity and communications at the same time. So we're doing a significant amount of work in that space, not to work on the decryption world. That's a different approach. I mean, on the security side, where we're manufacturing our own PUF chips, or physically unclonable function chips, which allow authentication between two different points and effectively do away with public key infrastructure. We have our quantum random number generator, which is actually used for encryption. And we have the ability to do a quantum network, which can actually provide that communications link. So we have a full stack here that, when we talk about satellite communications in this in context of NASA, that we would, with the right partner, be able to get into that market and be able to commercialize these technologies, which are all demonstrable technologies. And Hunter, you know me, you say it, and I appreciate that. These things are demonstrable. These are not aspirational technologies. We're working to commercialize these technologies, and we think that's a tremendous area for us to be able to focus on first. I want to go back to the million ways AI piece though for a moment.
Yep.
Again, I've got to be realistic. We're a small company. We've got to focus on those things that we know we can deliver on. The million ways AI piece and AI in general, I think, is going to prove itself to be a tremendously fruitful and tremendously fruitful market opportunity for us, clearly, and then for other quantum computing companies. Because, like I said earlier, that space is going to enable the use of AI and become a very, very effective tool. And the work that's being done there for us and demonstrating that we have this reservoir quantum computer that can actually have an impact on the AI world, I think is what people are reacting to in the market. And I'm really kind of going back to the point you made about the volume.
Right.
We're not trying to do these things to do anything but follow our product roadmap and follow the path we have strategically and tactically execute to demonstrate value in the marketplace. And I hope that's what's being reflected with the volumes today.
Well, I would definitely agree with that. I think from just an overall look, ever since I was a little kid, I liked conceptual drawings, spacecraft, cool concept cars, but they were all just concepts. And I was always interested is why did they never commercialize any of these things? What I like about AI and what I like about quantum computing, specifically Quantum Computing Inc., right, QUBT, is the fact that we're starting to see the companies having real applications. So, I mean, you're doing it in fraud detection with Rabobank. We've talked about that in the past. You're doing stuff with NASA for LiDAR. You're doing things with, Million Ways, AI. So we see that the future is coming and it's rapidly approaching. I mean, these things are happening very, very quickly. And it's good because we'll get to see the benefit of this type of technology in our everyday lives, which is very exciting. So, Bob, I always enjoy talking with you. This is an incredible company. For all of the listeners out there, make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe on the LinkedIn. Follow the Quantum Computing on Twitter. Follow them on LinkedIn. They post a lot of relevant information as well on the developments of what they're doing. Also, all the press releases are linked. We put everything in the descriptions below. And we're constantly covering it. So if you want information about QUBT, when we're looking at this company, this really is the future, I believe. So, and this news with Million Ways and obviously NASA, I like NASA. I used to grow up watching the space shuttle launch, right? So NASA's my backyard. So I see the market opportunity for, the powering of NASA, which is great, especially to get into that ecosystem. So that'll be really incredible.
Yeah, it is. And if I can say one last thing, I think it's important for us, because I'm looking at your scrolling and the words democratization of quantum computing come up, right? And one of the things that QCI is intending to do here with our strategy is to enable companies well outside the big boys, right? We've got all these big companies out there that are kind of claiming their domain in the AI space. But there's a lot of innovation that comes out of the market that don't have access to those types of resources and computers. We want to be able to power those capabilities and using our democratization approach of quantum computing and allow companies such as Million Ways and others that don't have the resources to compete with the Googles and the Microsofts of the world to have the capability of competing with them technologically. And we think that that's where that kind of approach will spur more innovation. Because the more you get these technologies into the hands of people with imaginations like the folks at Million Ways and others, the greater things come out of that. If we just leave it within the domain of a few companies, we'll lose that innovative edge.
Right.
So we really see our mission to help companies use this power to the good benefit and bring innovation to the consumer and to the society. So.
Well, I mean, you couldn't have said it. I could not have said it any better than that. That is the power behind Quantum Computing Inc. and your mission. And you're doing a great job at that because you're seeing all these different applications come out. So we're going to keep following the company. We're going to, for all of our listeners out there, I encourage you, please like, follow, and subscribe, because the more we get the word out about these companies, the more innovation can take place. So, and maybe you can be inspired as well as what the company is up to and what they're doing. So, Bob, as always, thank you again for joining, and we look forward to having you next time on the Markets Hunter program very soon.
Thanks, Hunter.
Thank you. Be well.